What's up, Bulls Nation? Peck here from CHGO Bulls at our downtown Chicago headquarters. We got a live pregame for you guys on deck. Bulls taking on the Pistons, second night of a back-to-back for both squads. Bulls defense has given up 287 points, spanning their last two games. Can they get that better? They got Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey to deal with. That's coming up next. What's going on, Bulls Nation? Welcome in to CHGO Bulls pregame, presented by Coors Light. Coming to you live from our studios here in West Loop, downtown Chicago. I'm Peck, Bulls_Peck. That's Big Dave. Bow. BAWL Sports.
Bow.
Will the Gottlieb. Gray hoodie, perfectly coiffed.
Oh,
Will
it's serious today.
And the queen on the controls, the one and only Katie Duffy. Pew. We got Bulls Pistons on deck. First meeting between these two Central Division rivals of the season. Second night of a back-to-back for both teams.
Yes.
Pistons got a big win, margin-wise, over the Washington Wizards last night.
Not the Czars.
Beating up on a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
And, they got big games from Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. We'll talk about in a minute. The Bulls, meanwhile, lost to the Rockets last night. Have we shaken that one off yet?
Oh, man.
I shook it off before it was over.
Before it was listen, that thing was gone, dog. That thing was out of my brain and gone. So, yeah, we're on to the next one. And Bulls-Pistons. I'm always excited for a Bulls-Pistons matchup, man.
As am I. A couple of injury notes for both teams that we can get to out of the gate here. Lonzo Ball remains out for the Bulls, and that's right, Joakim. Hit them thumbs. Thank you, Katie. Hit the likes, people. The wrist injury that I think we were going to talk about during halftime of our watch-along on Friday. I don't remember getting to it. There's a new timeline that Lonzo is dealing with.
Yeah.
Can we touch for a second on how much that sucks?
Sure.
Could be 2-week
actually,
injury, could be 6-week injury. Like, did you guys get anything else about Lonzo when you were at the UC yesterday, Goat?
Nothing yesterday, but it was kind of like we talked about. I mean, I think maybe it was the Cavs game on Friday night where they were saying, Sunday's maybe in play. And I was like, I don't know. Like, it seems like he hasn't really even been able to dribble yet, and that seems like a pretty big hurdle. And I know he's done that since, but just the way that they have talked about, like, what could possibly happen if they were to push through this or if he were to play through this, like, I don't know. I just feel like they got to be patient. And it's not like they're in a major rush to get him back anyway. They're not trying to, push, for 42 wins this year. It's like, know who you are, understand the situation, understand what you're trying to do for him, which is set him up to have a career that goes beyond the 3 games that he's played in this year and go from there. No need to rush or push or anything like that.
Yeah, I like how you said, dribbling's important.
It is.
What he's
it's a big
trying
deal.
to do.
Is that really? He's just played 3 games?
Well, he played in 2 or 3 preseason games and then 3
2
regular
preseason games.
Yeah.
For regular season.
How fleeting that was. Man.
Just like his first half here when he got here.
But the good news is it has nothing to do with what has held him out for so long. Right.
Sure.
Like, it's a completely different thing, different section of the body, different limb entirely.
Man, I remembered that play when he went flying out of bounds on the baseline to try and break up that transition play.
I remember it well. Yeah.
Their opponents had going, and I winced as he hit the floor, and the way he landed awkwardly. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think Lonzo just hurt himself." Sure enough,
tough guy, man.
Yes,
really is a really
truly.
tough guy.
Okay, and also on the Bulls injury front, Patrick Williams did pop up on the injury report with bilateral foot soreness. He has been given the green light to play tonight after being listed as probable with that injury specification. But many who saw that detail of bilateral foot soreness on the injury report said, is this at all related to the fact that Patrick Williams had foot surgery for that stress fracture back in March? And we've been wondering, is Patrick Williams fully healed from said foot injury and surgery? Because they kind of brought up very casually somewhere in that training camp timeline, Patrick, he's healthy-ish. And we all went, what? So here we are.
I'm okay if Patrick sits out. Personally, that foot injury was huge and set him back a lot. And to the point where, like Will kept saying, like he hadn't played 5-on-5 for quite a long time. So I just want him to be all right. And if you feel anything in that foot, for me, it's like Lonzo in his knee. You feel anything in that, man, I need you to sit out and make sure it's okay. Because again, I'm not out here trying, to get to be a top 4 seed out here, a top 5 seed with this team. So I'm okay with you getting this rest because I'm thinking about your career after signing this another nice contract. You signed your brand new deal. If it has anything to do with the injury that you just went through that kept you out the entire year, man, listen, go ahead and have a seat. I don't care about probable or not. If you're feeling discomfort in that foot, I would take a game, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that should be the approach this whole season just because we know what's at stake, and what's at stake is not like having to do with winning more games.
Sure.
And so that would be fine by me. I do know that like the Bulls, and Billy mentioned this post game, like they have 5 games in 7 nights here. This is game 2 on a back-to-back, second game of a 5-7 stretch and 6-9. So that's a lot of minutes. I know they were trying to be a little bit cautious with overplaying guys, and obviously it didn't become a problem last night. Nobody played more than 25 minutes. But I think that because of this stretch, it would not surprise me if there are maybe some guys that have, some soreness that take a day off or something like that, just because of how many games they're about to be playing. But obviously, if they're getting blown out by 35 points, then you have less to worry about there. So with Patrick, I just think, and that should be the approach for all these guys, is like, let's think big picture here. Let's think about health. Let's not push anything further than it needs to go and end up in a situation where now you're missing time next year. Because that, I think, would be much worse than, missing a game in October, November, December this season.
Very much so.
Hopefully all good for Pat. We'll see when we get confirmation starting lineups if he is in fact not only available to play tonight, but in that starting lineup. Pistons, meanwhile, Asar Thompson remains out. Very unfortunate. Has been dealing with that blood clot issue for several months now. He's officially on the injury report as return to competition reconditioning. So it sounds like they are expecting him to get past his blood clot issue sometime, ideally in the near future, and get back out on the court. But he remains out tonight. Meanwhile, Tim Hardaway Jr. And Jaden Ivey were both on their injury report as probables. Hardaway Jr. dealing with that head injury from a few days ago.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And then Jaden Ivey, a mild ankle sprain, also still waiting on the official starting 5s for the Pistons, but it sounds like both of them will be available. We'll confirm that in a minute. Shout out to everybody in the comments. Thanks for joining us for pregame. A.TV saying, I'm predicting a blowout win for the Bulls with an excellent team defensive effort. Wow. Got to reel us diehards back in after yesterday's belt to the ass. Johnny Pitcherton saying, Bulls going to play more defense tonight? No. No D. We'll see if there is some sort of response to the Bulls giving up 140 plus in consecutive games. The comments that we heard, not only from their head coach Billy Donovan, but the ones that you brought up when you joined us remote and post game last night of Kobe White, who has become sort of the vocal leader of this team, who sat there at his locker in his post game comments saying like he used the word embarrassing.
Yep.
He said it was a disservice to the organization, a disservice to Bulls fans for them to put up that kind of defensive effort. Do you think we see a significant adjustment in defensive effort tonight?
I think an effort probably. I don't feel like the effort is really as much of a problem as they seem to say it is. One thing that I think you cannot criticize these teams for, the Billy Donovan era, is like not showing up. I feel like they've always shown up. They've always competed. And more often than not, they compete so hard that they like overachieve. Like they started 5-14 last year and they didn't go away. I feel like they could have packed it in. We were calling for them to blow it up. Fans were calling for them to blow it up. Like they easily could have gone that direction, and they played above 500 basketball the rest of the way. They made their way into the play-in. Now we can agree or disagree with that approach, but like the fact of the matter is the guys didn't give it up. And so I don't think that's like a criticism that you can make. I just think that they're not equipped to defend at a high level. When you have big guards who can get into the paint, it's like the Bulls just don't have anybody who can provide resistance there. I think that's a personnel problem, not an effort problem. And I think that when you're missing shots and the other team is like running it down your throat and getting layups, that can be demoralizing. That can make it so that you maybe lose your effort a little bit on a night. And I think that's kind of what happened last night. But I don't think that like effort is really the issue right here. I think it's personnel. And I think that's okay, given, again, what we're talking about in terms of thinking big picture here. So to me, I think they will achieve at a higher level just because like these guys are really caring, like high character, competitive people. And I think that they don't want to lose like that. Like they were embarrassed by that. That's why Kobe said it. They were embarrassed by that. And so I think they will come with a little bit more effort and like compete factor, care factor, whatever you call it. But I think that this is just the reality of the way this team is built more so than anything. I mean, you're making Zach LaVine your stopper with the starting lineup. I mean, that should tell you what you need to know about how this team is constructed from a defensive standpoint. So, and I think Zach has like met the challenge. He's trying his hardest. He's like working hard. He's on Donovan Mitchell. He's on guys, but like that's just the way the team is built. And I think like they're, especially if you're one of those people that's like, yeah, we should probably pack it in and get a top 10 draft pick. Then like you kind of also have to be okay with what that actually looks like, right? Because in practice, it's one thing. On paper, it's another. And I think what we're seeing is the result of the way that this team has been put together.
So basically you're saying you don't confuse effort with execution.
Well, it's not even like execution so much, because I think like they're always going to be able to execute better, right? And Billy talked about that, but like at a certain point, and this
you're
is
saying more so personnel.
Yeah,
like
there's Billy had a great quote. He's like, if a guy like takes 2 dribbles and gets straight to the rim, there's no defense for that. So like you can scheme it up all you want. You can try throwing zones out there. You can switch, you can hedge, you can trap, you can double, you can like fill the gaps, you can rotate, like all this stuff. But like if you're just giving up 0 resistance and guys are getting downhill to the rim, I mean, the Rockets had 80 points in the paint last night. Yeah. Like you're going to lose games that way.
Yeah. And look, you're right. But when I'm seeing it from Kobe's eyes, he's obviously not going to think that way. Kobe's going to be like, we've got the guys to do
100%.
this. We just need to have more effort out here on the floor, and we need to try harder. That's why I'm saying don't confuse the effort with the execution, because you don't really have the guys
100%
there.
agree with that.
They won't have the fellas that are there on your team to do the things properly that you want done. Mm-hmm. We understand you like everybody, and you believe in everyone, and that is exactly how I need you to think. And that is why Kobe White is the leader that he is for this team. But no, we know you don't have the right talent, you know what I'm saying, and the people, and you haven't had that for the past few years to run that kind of defense. And especially you ain't got it now because you got rid of Caruso out here. So, yeah, you're going to struggle on those nights. Of course, 80 points in the paint is bad. And some games, when effort is all you can kind of lean on when you don't have the defense, some nights your execution isn't there, right? And you see teams, go at you and, have those moments. When effort is all you have and you don't have that and provide that, then you're going to give up 80 points in the paint. That's exactly how it's going to happen. So you got to be real with that. As far as just us fans were saying, I don't need Kobe to be real with that. I need Kobe to keep saying, no, we just need to try harder and we need to play better, because that's exactly how your players are supposed to be thinking. But we know what it is, as Will just eloquently stated right there. We know what we're looking at right here.
And I think I just want to reiterate that I think that's like a really good point. And like, that's why Kobe said what he said after the game. It's like, we talked about like the quote from AK at the beginning of the year, like the integrity of the game and not sacrificing that for the sake of development. Like these guys are taking that really seriously. So that's what I'm saying. I think they will come out and defend harder and defend better. But I don't think this is a team that hasn't tried hard.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think there's plenty of things you can criticize them for. Effort is not one of them, in my opinion, at least beyond long-term in terms of outside of this maybe single game or one-off examples. Mm-hmm. Like I think big picture, you can't really say Billy Donovan-led teams are not here to play, or, this group has not shown up, because I feel like they've really done that and overachieved sometimes, so much so that it's like set them back long-term, right? Because they've done better than they should.
Fair.
Shout out to our guy Prison Mike, who said he was just popping into the chat for a minute from DeClink to give a like. Give that like.
What now?
That's what he calls it.
I know. No one's called it that in a very long time. That's why I'm laughing.
Golden Force in the comments saying, Zach, defensive stopper, something I didn't think I'd hear. Johnny, Zach is your stopper. Vooch is your rim protector. That's a capture the flag level defense right there.
Oh, man.
Prism Mike also saying Giddey should just whip his hair at attackers. Better defense than what he's offering now. Chocolate Salty Bulls. If only Giddey could offer the same resistance as the product in his hair. Julie RC also said Billy Donovan, communication as a big issue. It's something he's mentioned several times.
For years.
Yeah.
For years. It's been a problem.
And your loudest vocal leader on the defensive end is gone, as we were just mentioning with Alex Caruso. Billy also had some, choice words about defense in his post-game podium stuff last night. Katie, do you want to play that clip that we got from Billy, please?
We're not like a shot blocking team, and we're going to have to put our body in place. And you know what? Like, for tonight, as much as the ball was coming downhill, we didn't have one guy try to take a charge. Someone's got to put their body into play, and they just kind of came right through us and down, and we're going to have to make a stance. And I definitely felt from the bench, and you probably need to ask them, this is just totally my opinion on it. I thought because we struggled to shoot the basketball after a period of time, I thought it drained us. Yeah. And this is one of those games where you have to find alternative ways, to try to win, because we certainly created a lot of really good looks, and I really liked the way we were playing. And I think, I think we generated like 56 threes, which is great. They didn't go down. Like, we can't be a team, well, if we make shots, we're going to be really competitive. If we don't, we're not. We have to find other ways to do it. And I thought the rim, and then I thought the other part of it was the transition.
So that was Bulls head coach Billy Donovan after last night's loss. And he kind of touched on, Big Dave, what you and Purdue and I were talking about in postgame last night of the, if our shots aren't falling, we can't let that impact and affect and bleed into negative, effort and execution in other elements of our game that night. And I think that there's truth to that. But he also just was offering some hard truths and realities about what this team is defensively right now. Not stopping anybody. The Bulls have taken 2 charges through the first 14 games of the season. Alex Caruso, as an individual, has already taken, I think, 3 or 4. And he talked about not being a shot blocking team. Yeah. They are not.
Yeah.
If there's some element of your team's defense that you can maybe try to hang your hat on every night and say, whatever else is going on, we will execute and be good at this, and then build out from there. And I think the Bulls don't even really have – they are, maybe surprisingly, I think second in the NBA in defensive rebounding percentage right now. They have that.
Oh, because of Vooch, yeah. Okay.
Right. But, and Josh Giddey, active on the boards. For all of his flaws, he's been active on the board. Patrick Williams is putting up games with 5 or 6, maybe even 7.
Zach had a 10 rebound game.
Yeah. Pat had a double-double.
Yeah.
With rebounds.
Shocking. It's crazy.
But most other elements of their defense are poor.
Yeah. I think they, and Will, you can please correct me if I'm wrong on this. I think one of their focuses should be on on-ball defense. I think that's the kind of the one thing I can look at and say, oh, they got some guys who can kind of do that. When I talk about a guy like Io, or when I'm thinking about Dalen Terry, who has been solid, on his on-ball defense and getting steals from guys, or when guys are trying to, put him in the basket and him just slapping the ball out their hands and starting to break. I feel like that's their only, real true thing that I could point to and say, oh, yeah, you guys might want to work around that part of that defense, and let's kind of tap a little bit more into that, because Zach also is good at that, getting those steals and getting that run out and things like that. So, again, I'm only saying this because it's a guard-heavy team. Yeah. And when you're a guard-heavy team, it's not going to be interior where you're going to be able to, be good defensively.
Yeah, I think statistically you could look at a couple of things. Defensive rebounding is a big one. They're 7th in opponent foul rate, so they're not fouling teams, or they're above average in that. And that's huge. I mean, when you are giving up a lot of layups, it's probably easy to also find yourself giving up a lot of fouls, and that can compound things. So having the discipline to not do that, I think, is big. And then they've been really good at taking away threes. That has come at the expense of giving up a lot of rim shots. They are 2nd in the league in terms of most highest frequency of rim attempts for their opponent. But they're 10th in corner 3, attempt rate. They are 8th in non-corner 3 attempt rate and 6th overall. So they are taking away 3-point shots. And when we've talked so many years about the 3-point shot battle and losing the math game, to avoid putting themselves in that situation where even though now they're shooting a lot of threes, if they're giving up just as many or giving up more, that would completely cancel that out. And so I think they've done a good job there. The problem is they're just giving up so many uncontested layups. And yeah, their opponent location effective field goal, which is basically a measure of your shot quality and like what would your effective field goal be if you shot league average from each shot zone. So rim shots, short mid-range shots, long mid-range shots, corner and above break 3. If your opponents shot league average % from each of those zones, what would their effective field goal be? The Bulls are 29th in that. So because they are so bad at taking away the rim, even though they're doing a good job taking away the threes, their defense is still just not in a position to really be very effective. And again, I don't think that's necessarily an accident. Like, just given the way that this roster is constructed, they don't have a lot of avenues to even try new stuff because they just don't have the personnel to be able to do some of that. And so I actually really I've learned so much from talking to Billy, and he's been so open with me, with the whole media and like the reporters, of just explaining what it is that they're trying to do. I've been around other coaches who like won't tell you anything, or like feel like if you're not on their level, then it's not worth trying to explain stuff to you. Billy has been so great with us in terms of teaching us what they're trying to do. And I feel like he's genuinely, like he even said it in that clip, it's like they're trying to find other solutions. And I think that's like what a very good head coach should be trying to do in these situations. And so, you know, I don't know if they will stay consistent with these numbers, with their approach in terms of what schemes they're running. I know they're trying new things. I know they've gone more to zone this year. Depending on the personnel they're playing against, like they've tried different schemes, but at the end of the day, like you either don't have the guys to defend or you do. And I think they can be a little bit better within that, but they're just not built to be a great defensive team.
Yeah, it is.
Billy saying they need to find alternative ways to win. Julie in the comments said it sounds like he's talking about calling Tanya Harding. You know, Tanya might be able to then forward him to the true person who could help him, which is Jeff Gillooly.
I was wondering where you were going with that.
He's the one. Tanya's not the one who was swinging any wrench or any tire iron.
Fair point.
She just knew a guy.
Yeah.
If Bulls defense can't improve, let's just hire a goon with a baseball bat. Start breaking some.
We got a belt here for you too. So yeah.
Oh my goodness. Starting fives are out. Bulls as usual, including Patrick Williams in that starting lineup alongside Giddey, Kobe, Zach, and Vooch.
Okay.
For the Detroit Pistons, their probables are in fact both playing and starting. We got Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Tim Hardaway Jr. Tobias Harris, he's around. He's a Detroit Piston now. And Jalen Duren. On those defensive struggles, do you have those defensive numbers, Katie, to throw up there that are just really encouraging? And by that, I mean the opposite. But again, look, second in defensive rebounding percentage. They're not also, as much as Billy has talked about this, giving too many free throw line trips to their opponents or committing unnecessary fouls. They're 7th in the NBA in opponents' free throws per field goal attempts. That's respectable. But when you see they're just not forcing any turnovers, they are dead last in the NBA in forcing turnovers, and they are among the worst in the league, 25th, in allowing that high effective field goal percentage for their opponents. They're allowing nearly 124 points per game through 14 games. Only the Wizards are worse by 0.2 of a point.
Only the Zards?
Yes.
Oh,
like
goodness.
This is just, it's bad. But we all, I think, well, maybe not all, lots of us thought, hey, Bulls defense is going to be, I mean, they talked about it at media day.
Yeah.
It's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, and we appreciated the honesty with what they spoke. But again, seeing is different. You know what I mean? I think that's what some fans are like. Like, you can tell them the actual truth, but some people got to feel it. Like I tell y'all, the hard-headed got to feel it to believe it sometimes. So as I tell Will all the time, like, Will, you can look and see a fire and say, hey, there's a fire. I'm not going over there. And I'm looking at the fire like, I think I can get through it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, because I have to actually feel the fire for me to be like, oh, Will's right. That's hot. So, yeah, I some people have to have it like that. And I get them telling them and saying to people, hey, it's going to be a struggle, guys. But still some fans, no, we're the Bulls. They put on new jerseys and, they're going to do stuff. 143 points later, 80 points in the paint later. What the hell? Like, yeah, it is. It is like that.
Shout out to Osis Jr. in the comments who said, been missing my CHGO. Love. Hope to see Bulls play any type of defense tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Watching these past games back have been sickening. Yes. If you are someone who loves watching competent defense and doesn't like watching incompetent defense, these games have been sickening. And look, the Pistons so far are kind of a middling team when you're talking about offensive lethality.
Look at you.
Just the 22nd ranked offense in the NBA through their first 13 or 14 games.
Mm-hmm.
It's their defense that they have been relying on. They have the 6th best defensive rating in the NBA thus far, middle of the pack team net rating wise. But recently, they are playing much better, and recently they are winning many more games. I mentioned they did get a 20-point victory in the front end of their back-to-back last night. They also are 7-4 in their past 11 games after starting 0-4 to begin the season. So they're figuring out how to win.
Yeah.
Which is something you say about young teams all the time.
Yeah, and I credit their coach with that. I credit Bernie with those kind of things and changing just the actual culture of their team and giving them the culture that they've been wanting for a while. They've been wanting that kind of culture, that tough kind of culture for a minute, and I appreciate him providing them with those things. Bernie's a great coach to put on a team that's just trying to find out who they are. He's a perfect coach for those things. And I saw him do that in Memphis as well. And, yeah, they are right where you would think a team with all that talent kind of would be because they're still kind of figuring it out. Reminds me of Orlando when they had that young talent and they would just kind of hover around because they were just still kind of figuring out who they really were and what works for them, and then their coach provided the actual culture of which they need to play, and then you saw them just blossom, and you see what Orlando is now. So I'm seeing the same kind of things will happen with the Pistons with their coaching staff and their GM too.
Yeah, I can't remember who made this comparison. It was on a podcast I was listening to, but they compared them to like the Rockets from 2 years ago, right before they got Van Vliet.
Yeah,
where it's like you've got this crop of really high-level young prospects who have taken some time to kind of figure some things out, dealt with injuries. But I think they are starting to come into an identity a little bit here. And I think they also underachieved last year. Like they had the incredible losing streak. They just did not, they won like 14 games. It was just not a good season for them. I don't think they were actually that bad. And so I think you're starting to see a little bit more of what they should have looked like last year, plus now figuring out some more stuff, having more shooters around them. Tim Hardaway Jr., who's been in the lineup, just provides so much more spacing. Tobias Harris adding another veteran spacer and scorer out there to take some pressure off of Cade and just give them room to work with. I think they just seem like more of a cohesive NBA team this year, and they're not just throw the kids out and let them play because you can run into some problems with that. So obviously the talent is there. I agree. Bickerstaff is a great coach, and I think he's bringing some good stuff out of them. And so they're going to be competitive. And I think they're another team where they're going to be kind of in the Bulls zip code in terms of where they end up in the season. But to me, this is a team that should continue to seek out wins and push for wins because of everything that they've been through in the past. Like they're on the ascent, and I think they need to be focused on that.
Completely agree.
Shout out to Joey Spathis.
Bulls Nation, we got a Joey in the comments.
Massive.
Spathis is here saying,
Massive.
"Good time who beat the Pistons?" Actually, please don't. That's my guy. I love you, Joey. I miss you. Massive improvement from
We gotta
Detroit.
get the gremlin. Yeah, that.
There he is.
Give your thumbs to the
always want
troll.
the
2
thumb.
steps ahead, Katie.
Always want the thumbs.
Ostis Jr. saying, I try to fluster Cade. Mr. Strict saying Cade is the answer. And you talking about the Pistons being on the upswing and those improvements. Let's look at what Cade and Jaden Ivey are doing out of the gate so far this season. Cade, in that win last night, recorded his 4th triple-double of the season already. 21, 10, and 10. Meanwhile, Jaden Ivey, just a casual 28 points and 8 dimes. Also was pretty efficient from the three-point line. Malik Beasley, my God, went nuts for them behind the three-point line last night. But, you look at some of these numbers. you know, it's not like Luka or Joker or Giannis, any kind of thing like that. But you got a guy who's averaging 23 a game on respectable splits. You got Jaden Ivey, complimentary scorer, averaging 19 a game. And they're all like career highs across the board. Cade Cunningham, just above his previous career high behind the arc, which was last season. He's career high in rebounds, assists. He's averaging a block a game. Jaden Ivey, career high in points, shooting splits, rebounds. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Like they are taking their games to the next level out of the gate this season.
Jaden Ivey is somebody that we all kind of wanted. I really wanted coming out the draft. I was quite mad that he went to Detroit because I don't want Detroit to have nice things. But he's awesome, man. And I was concerned about him last year because remember that they sent him on the bench, and it was a lot of trade talk around him, and he just felt like he was kind of figuring it out a little bit and just need a little coaching up. You know what I mean? A little love, a little coaching.
And the situation matters too.
Guys.
Like you need space on the floor to be able to attack. If he's non-shooter,
coaching,
then like you got to give him room to do what he does well.
Exactly. Knowing
I
who
think
you
they
are.
that's what I'm saying. Like they just feel like a more cohesive NBA roster this year, and I think that's putting these guys in better positions to succeed.
Yeah.
Amari Green asking in the comments, what props we got tonight? Well, we had an appearance from the one and only Young Spathis, so you got to go Patrick Williams first bucket, right?
Seriously.
That's the rule.
That's the rule.
I assume Young Spathis is putting money on Patrick Williams first bucket every Bulls game night this season.
Oh, he doesn't
wherever
like money.
He is.
He does not like money.
No. I mean, it's not as bad as the craps table in Vegas.
Yes, sir.
Oh.
Had a tough night, Big Dave.
Hey.
Had a tough night.
just when he walked
Massive
out,
losses.
Massive losses,
Just
man.
looks down at the Vegas floor and just shook his head. It is past the 6 p.m. hour Central Time. That means tip-off between Bulls and Pistons is right around the corner. Bulls really in need of a bounce-back game, really in need of a better defensive effort, but they will have their hands full with this young Pistons team that's, putting together some wins recently. We'll be right back here for post-game. In the meantime, Will_Gottlieb is where you can follow the GOAT, Big Dave Balby at Bulls _Peck. We are CHGO Bulls. Shout out to the queen on the controls, Katie Duffy. Pew, pew. And enjoy the game. See y'all for post-game. Hit the like. Do it for Joey. Do it for Katie. Do it for yourselves. You're going to be good.
Peace.
Wow.
We all silly like the mayor.